Alright, what's up, Dragon Brew? Today we're going to be taking a look at some decks, or a deck I should say, that comes from the starter deck list, because last season we did this, people really liked it, so I'm going to be going over a series of videos where we actually take a look at these decks and upgrade them on a budget, so you don't have to spend too much to make those decks playable if there's one you have a big affinity for. And today we're going to be taking a look at On the Hunt, which is the Werewolf deck. So let's take a look at what a budget upgrade version of this might be like. Now, I expect this video is going to be for people who already play a little bit and maybe like this deck, but don't necessarily have a big collection, and also for players that are just newer and may not understand totally how the decks or cards work. So to that end, I do want to explain a few things in the initial version, and then we'll talk about why we made the upgrades we're making to the newer version. So we're going to start here and say Snarling Wolf. This is actually a pretty reasonable card. However, it's going to be a lot weaker than the other things we put into the deck, so this is one we're probably going to cut. However, I will say, if you don't own some of the other cards from the upgrade, this is one I would keep because it's actually reasonable. Hungry Ridge Wolf, I'm going to be honest with you, I almost forgot this was a real Magic card. So probably not playing this, mostly because the deck has a ton of 2-mana things that we can play that are all going to be more versatile and more important than this card is. Outland Liberator, this card's good, great that it's included, the backside is awesome. Being able to sacrifice this to destroy artifacts or enchantments give you some versatility to the deck. Absolutely 100% we're going to max this one out. Paxson Pup, also not bad. It can grow over time, it can gain you extra life. It's actually not a bad card all around. Not super, but totally reasonable as an uncommon, and it's a very cheap upgrade, so we'll likely go to 4 on that one. Kessig Naturalist, 100% we're going to want 4 of these. This pumps your whole team, but if nothing else, while you're attacking, you get extra mana. Love it. Now, this card is one that's actually very controversial for people. There's a lot of situations where people say, well, you need more things to turn stuff to nighttime. I don't think that's necessarily true. I play Werewolf decks in regular standard and don't play this card. I believe I played it in one version of the deck, and it's not bad, to be honest, but I don't know how necessary it really is. So again, I think it's a fine card. If you are missing something else in our upgraded version we're going to talk about in a second, feel free to still play this one, but I don't know that you need to lean on it. Moonranger Slash, totally reasonable card, deals damage to any target, super nice. Sometimes you get it cheaper and get to do it for 1 mana, that's great. So nothing wrong with this really at all. I'm a big fan of this card. I think we have some other burn damage that might be worth playing, but I wouldn't turn my nose up at this, but we're probably just going to leave this at 3 or maybe even reduce it to 2. Now, Reckless Stormseeker is going to be where we spend some of our rare slots. And for upgrades, my goal for each of these decks we're going to go over is to hit 9 or less total rares and or mythics added to the deck. So this is where we're definitely going to go all the way up to 4. Not only is it a werewolf and gets the benefit of all the werewolf things, it's also just a good card. I mean, you play this in a lot of non-werewolf decks. So this is, of all the cards, this is one of the ones you should definitely upgrade. Howling Moon, this is another one. I'm going to have people yell at me that, why are you going to take this out? It's a rare and blah. I get it. It sucks to have to remove rares or mythics from your list. However, this is one we got for free. Is this card terrible? Not really. I will say this though. It's a good card to have if you're running into a lot of the decks from our other video where we talked about the Delver decks that are full of instants and sorceries where they're playing 2 or 3 spells a turn. Then this card's great. But honestly, if you're not playing against those, this deck's very mid. Aggressively mid. So I probably wouldn't play it. We're probably going to end up cutting this. Weaver of Blossoms, making mana is cool, and turning it into a 3/4 is kind of nice, but it's slower and worse than a lot of the other 3-mana things we want to play. Almost never would you want to play this before of a Reckless Stormseeker, or even some of our other cards, so I'm going to go ahead and probably cut these in the final list. Wolfstrike, I don't mind. If you don't have some of the other cards and you still need some removal, Wolfstrike's actually okay. It's a fight spell, it can pump your creature for a turn, that's great, but truth be told, we have better removal now in just straight burn spells that can also deal damage to your opponent, so we're probably just going to do that. Tovolar, Dire Overlord. You want to have at least 3 of this. Like, it can give you the option to let your team trample. Anything that damages the opponent's going to get to draw cards. It's a 4/4 on the backside. We like a lot of things about Tovolar, so no reason you should just have 1. Easily going to be a 3 of, if not 4 of, in the final list. Fangblade Brigand, another one I was like, what does this card even do? Forgot it was in here. Definitely don't want to play this card. It's not good. For 4 mana, we can do a lot better for werewolves, and it's just average, honestly. We can do better than average. Howlpack Piper. This is another one people are going to be upset that I'm removing, but let me explain. I've tried this in a few different werewolf decks. It almost always just feels like a trap. You're spending mana for a 2/2, 4 mana for a 2/2 creature that ultimately doesn't do much. It has to sit on the field for a full turn, and then you get to use it. So you need a situation where hopefully you have things in your hand that are still worth using this with next turn, and it's just 2/2, right? You can't do much with it. On turn 4, we need to be doing much bigger things with the werewolf deck. Now, the backside is actually okay, letting you look at the top 6 cards and pick something and being a 4/4 body. But on the front side, there's a lot of times the ability just doesn't go off, unfortunately. So, not a huge fan. I'm probably going to cut this. Arlen's, the Pax Hope, we're going to play an additional 1 or 2 of these. This is much better to play on turn 4. It can either produce you 2 creatures, or if it's already nighttime, you just get to attack with a big 5/5 creature that your opponent can't do much about. So, big fan. Definitely going to go ahead and play more of this. Child of the Pack, we're cutting. Again, there's just better things we could do with 4 mana. Rarely do you have an extra 4 mana open after playing this the next turn to go ahead and make a 2/2 wolf. It's neat that if you get to the backside, it's a 5/5 and gives all the rest of your creatures +1. But yeah, just not a great card, unfortunately. Lana and Lena, things we're talking about we could do with 4 mana. This is definitely one of them. So I want to go ahead and play more of this. So just getting to pump your creatures permanently with more creatures is great. With more counters is great. And then actually being able to just have a hasty creature on the next thing you play. Also fantastic. So we're definitely going to increase this. Village Watch, yeah, not a fan. It's a 5 mana 4/3. Sure, it has haste, but man, we could do a lot better than this. Same thing with Burly Breaker, though I will say Burly Breaker is at least a 6 power, and that's a threat, and Ward 1 is not anything to just turn your nose up at, but I don't think we need this. This is very much filler in this list. And then Lunar Frenzy is actually okay because you can give something First Strike and Trample. However, I think in a lot of cases, just being able to have more red damage spells, just remove something, is probably going to serve you better. Lands, we'll talk about that in a second. Let's look at version 2 with all of the upgrades now that we've talked over about the stuff that we want to remove from the deck. Alright, so the main increases here we've done to the deck is to put the burn damage in, which allows us extra removal for early opposing creatures, but also a chance to kill planeswalkers, or later in the game just give us damage we could draw to just outright kill the opponent. We're going to spend our rares on getting just better creatures, and just more versatility among our creatures, other than just having things of size. And I think that's where we're going to come out ahead in this list. So going down the list, we're going to now be playing 4 Play with Fire, again talking about that burn damage. We are spending a couple rares on Ascendant Pack Leader. Now, it is only 2, and I feel like if you had more rares to spend, I might actually cut some Moonrager Slash to play more Pack Leaders and have more early damage. But hey, we're on a budget, this is all we can put in there. Then we have 4 Lightning Strike. Again, you can hit creatures or opponent, which is great. We just talked about that in the last segment there, that we're going to go ahead and play 4 Outland Liberator. We're going to play 4 Pack Song Pup. And then we're also going up to 4 Kessig Naturalist, because the card's just damn good. Like, these 4 cards, or 3 cards, are worth having 4 copies each of in the list. I will say this, though. If you wanted to keep the Moonrager Slash and you wanted to cut something for those pack leaders, Pack Song Pup is probably the first creature that gets cut from the list. It's not great, it's not terrible, but it just kind of serves a purpose. So if you want to cut Pack Song Pup and play more pack leaders if you own them already, that's probably better. So cutting this to 2 and then moving this to 4 seems more than reasonable. Then we were talking about Moonrager Slash. This is probably the next card on the chopping block behind the Pack Song Pup if you want to replace anything. Then, of course, we're going to spend some rares. We're going to spend 3 here to go ahead and play the Reckless Stormseeker. We're going to play 2 more Tovolar, bringing this total up because this card's super good. And then, like we talked about earlier, we're going to increase 1 Arlen and 1 Halana and Elena. Now that brings us to our lands, which is a little bit tough. So we've got 9 Mountain, 9 Forest, 2 Racer's Ring, 1 Rockfall Vale, and 3 Rugged Highlands. Personally, I don't think I'm a big fan of the Rugged Highlands and the Racer's Rings. However, the Racer Ring does let you draw cards. So in the order of replacement, if you do have the cards, I would play more Rockfall Vale and the new card Carplusian Forest, which is a reprint but appears in Dominaria United. I think I would start by replacing the Highlands first, then I would replace the Racer's Ring, then I would start just alternating replacing mountains and forests till we get those all in there. So yeah, you want to end up ultimately with 4 Rockfall Vale and 4 Carplusian Forest, I think, to take care of your lands. But otherwise, this is going to be a much better version than what you got as far as the free starter deck. Now, if you found today's deck list helpful and you want to find more budget lists, check out this other video I have where I talk about 4 budget lists that are actually playable and competitive in standard right now. But that's all I have for you for now. We'll see you next time.